today we're going to be using Amazing Casting Resin, and this comes in two parts, and you need to mix up 2 equal parts, and it's really quick to cure. It takes about 5 minutes for it to cure, and then you can use it and touch it, and then it takes about an additional 15 minutes for it to fully cure. So this is the stuff we're using today to make the resin sheets. I've already taken 2 equal parts here. And I just want to make sure that my piece is going to be flat. If your embossing folder is not flat, you can go ahead and tape it down if you need to. But this one's pretty flat, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like that. And I also need a popsicle stick. And I'm just going to put part A into part B, and then I'm going to mix it together. This does starts to cure pretty quickly, so I have to work fast. So I just went ahead and mixed it together. And at first it's a little cloudy, but once it starts to clear, that's when I go ahead and pour it into my embossing folder on top of it. And I'm going to spread it out onto the embossing folder and get it as thin as I can. Okay, so I'm just going to pour a little bit on there, and I'm going to use my popsicle stick to just smooth it out. And it's clear right now, but when it's cured, it's going to turn white. And it only takes a couple of minutes for it to cure. And I have enough to do the other side, so I'm going to go ahead and do the other side as well. I want a pretty thin sheet of resin because that makes it easier to cut, and you still get all the texture. So I'm just smoothing it out. I can bring it up to the edge. I do have wax paper on my table, so that if it does spill over, it won't, won't damage my table or anything. And even if it does spill over, it's pretty easy to remove once it's cured. So now I'm just going to let it sit here for a few minutes, maybe about 5 or 6 minutes, and it'll start to turn white. You can even see in the cup that it's already starting to turn white in the cup. It starts to cure pretty quickly, but I don't want it to harden completely because then it becomes hard to cut. So once it turns white, I'm going to peel the sheets off and I'm going to cut them to size. I'm going to cut them to fit my little box. Now this has been sitting for a couple of minutes, and I did test a couple of areas and it was still a little bit too slimy, so I just let it rest for another minute or so. And I think it's ready now. I just went ahead and slit the center down because it is attached, and I just want to remove one panel at a time. If you want to check it to make sure, you can just lift up one side, and if it comes off easily, then you're good to go. So you just want to try not to rip it, because you're going to be cutting this to size. And this is a pretty thin sheet, and it's still very, very soft. So I'm actually just going to take my scissors and just cut it in half because it's pretty big. And you can see these are just regular scissors. This is very, very easy to cut right now because it's not fully cured. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place it on my box and cut out the sizes that I need. And because it's still not fully cured, it's also a little bit sticky. So it's kind of nice because you don't have to, you could just press it onto your wooden piece and it's going to stay on there. It's not on there permanently, but for now it helps in cutting out the size that you need. So now I'm just going to do a side. I'm just gently going to press it into place. And then I'm going to cut it whatever size I want. So now that my piece is completely covered in the resin sheets, I'm just going to let it sit for an additional 10 to 15 minutes and let those sheets get really hard. And then once they're hard, I'll go ahead and take them off the box and I'll permanently attach them with some tacky glue. Once the glue dries, sky's the limit. You can add some gesso to this and you can cover it with paint, just like I did with the other samples. These have all been covered in gesso and then I painted them. But you can paint them any way you want. The only thing that I would say is that you seal the pieces when you're completely finished with them. So you can add either a coat of Mod Podge, anything that you have laying around to seal them so that they don't scratch off any of the paint that you have on the resin sheets.